Managing your career timeline takes some planning. If you are a millennial or a Zer in today's environment, I argue that you will have an opportunity to have 5 to 6 different careers, not jobs, over the span of 30 years. If you were building your career in the 80s and the 90s and even the early 2000s, the aspiration for most professionals was a 30-year career in one company. But given the fact that the rate of innovation has grown exponentially, as you recall, it used to be every 10 years there was a new product innovation. Then it was every 5 years. Then it was every 2. And I would argue now it's a year or less if you think about how quickly cell phone providers put out a new version of the phone that you're carrying right now. And if that is the case, you should be thinking and reviewing your career every 5 years. And you might find that you want to stay in one organization for another increment of 5 or another increment of 5, and you're 15 years in one organization. But the reason you would do that is if that organization is offering you a compelling value proposition relative to everything else that's out there in the marketplace. And companies are bending over backwards to make sure that they engage their best professionals. And they are critically thinking now and intentionally thinking about how they help people grow their careers, how they help people career path, because they understand that that is critical in order to retain their best talent. And you should be thinking to yourself, if I'm going to be in this organization for 5 years, what do I want to learn? What kind of skills do I want to acquire? What kind of experiences do I want to have? What kind of network do I want to build? If I'm not quite sure what I ultimately want to do in my life, and I have some idea of what that looks like, what can I get in these 5 years that will make me an even more attractive candidate in the next 10 years when I get to this thing that I think I'm interested in ultimately becoming? Your first 5 years early in your career, you should be thinking about acquiring those basic skills. Analytical skills, quantitative skills, presentation skills, selling skills, even strategic thinking, because all of those skills are applicable no matter what industry you're going to go in. So focus on what I call the basic skills so that you can actually amplify your choices with respect to what you're going to do in the next 5 years of your career. And you want to be intentional about that because, again, time is going so fast that if you're not intentional in acquiring those skills, acquiring those experiences, getting exposure to the right people, then you're going to look up and you're 5 years into an organization and you have not maximized that experience. Now, in the second 5 years, you should at this point have been promoted 1 or 2 times. And now you should be making a decision. Do I want to get to the top of this organization, and what does that look like? Is my goal to become an executive vice president? How many more steps until I get there? Is it my aspiration to be an executive vice president in this vertical? I'm in marketing, or do I think I want to go into finance? Or do I think I want to go into infrastructure or operations? You should be thinking about that, because if you are going to move outside of your vertical where you are now in that second 5 years of your career, you want to be positioning yourself to actually make that move. As you think about the third 5 years, now you are squarely in the middle of your career. Now it's time to take an assessment. What have I learned? What kind of skills do I have? Have I identified my superpower, the thing that's easy for me to do, that I seem to be pretty good at doing, and it also seems to benefit some other people? Maybe you have identified it, maybe you haven't. Do not worry. But now you say, what other skills and experiences do I want to collect? What have I learned that actually exists out there that I didn't know when I started my career? When I started my career as a young banker, I started in mergers and acquisitions. But 5 years into my career, I'd already transferred to capital markets. And I will tell you that in the first 3-4 months of being in capital markets, I loved it. I loved it. And I thought, boy, this suits me even more than that. And I thought I really liked that. But now I'd established something and liked it and realized that there was a long runway of things for me to learn. So here's where I was going to build over the next couple of those increments. And I ended up staying in capital markets a long time. But why? It was the gift that kept on giving. I learned something new every single day. I was exposed to different people. I was exposed to different industries, learning, building my intellectual and my experiential capital. This is how you want to think over the long term of your career. Now, we've gotten into the middle. I think you can take it from here. Let's go get them.